I'm going to deal now with sexuality and essentialism and otherness. And I'm going to start off by having you see this little clip. So as I'm now the third section of this lecture number 4 about Iraq. And I'm going to have you start off by looking at this piece from a David Mamet film called Spartan, which was quite good, actually. And the discussion is between somebody who could attach this soldier to his unit and protect and help her. Basically, it would be good for her career if she were to get field time like this. And so she says, it's just two people in green having a discussion. And even when they're sitting as civilians, and he knows that he can, she says, thank you for reaching out to me, sir. There's this. So here's an ambitious. This is different from the junior private who is just as I say, a screw up. She's doing drugs and she's she's not squared away, and he straightens up her cap, in the John Sayles Lone Star. But here we have a soldier who is completely squared away. She knows what she's doing, and she knows what she wants, and she wants to get into the field, and so she seeks out this opportunity. And this concept, what I want you to hear specifically is this concept of people in green, which is the same kind of thing as people in blue, where the police have said for decades now, we don't see women, we don't see African Americans or Chicano, Latinx, we just see people in blue. Because the police is the family, the police is the tribe. And so the same thing is operating here. And this is a great deal of how women are now treated in the military. There are provisos, but this is the first of it. So have a look at this.
Black, Jacqueline A. 2434-1924.
Can you get me on, sir? Can you get me on?
I'm just a worker, B.
Two fellas in green. Man to man, can you get me on the plane?
Now, why would I want to do that, Sergeant? I mean, if you owed me money or something. Might want to give you a job.
They're gonna need a woman there. For her. They haven't thought about that yet, but they will. Can you get me on the plane?
Thank you, Sergeant.
Now, his advisors realized that if the girl returned, it would reveal the king's shame to the country. So they told him that she was dead.
Ain't nobody here but two people in green.
It goes beyond that.
Nothing goes beyond that.
Little clip, okay, because it's done very well. Okay, so now you've had a chance to look at that. I want to talk about basically this issue of sexuality and the way that it can be made or broken and so on. And Williams notes that the faces of the women, especially the little girls, she says, just lit up with pleasure at the sight of a female soldier on page 17. Well, why? Right? This is sort of part of the question. Would it be because the Iraqis don't expect women to be soldiers? They don't expect them basically to be racist. They don't expect them to be killers, but to be friendly, and to be us in some ways. In other words, this is essentialism of a certain kind, that the Iraqi civilians, especially the girls, are seeing in their heads, this would be a friend. A woman, somebody I can trust, somebody who is within the forbidden zone, haram, which means forbidden in Arabic. So here is somebody from within the forbidden world who is every woman I've ever met has been my friend. Well, maybe not, but most women have been friends because women are together inside the forbidden world. When they go out, that's when they may have to be covered up. Although remember again, the fact that Iraq was this modernized country and embraced modernity so well. The Shah was like, this is going to be a modernized country. I'm going to modernize it. And he did modernize it. That what that meant was that women were used to walking around in Iraq. Women were used to walking around in skirts and heels and wearing makeup and not having to wear a chador or any kind of head covering if they didn't want to, and so on. That was a choice. But anyway, what we're seeing right now are the relatively early days of integration of women into the military, not unlike what black soldiers, African American soldiers, Latinx soldiers went through during the integration of the white military after World War II. And as I said before, it's been theorized that Vietnam was one of the best things to happen to the African American population because it fully integrated the military. And as you remember, I'm hugely dubious about that, but anyway, it also integrated the Deep South more. And it is important not to underestimate, absolutely, I mean, this is absolutely true, that the military operated to normalize white-black relations in the Deep South, where the Jim Crow laws were still either enforced legally or not legally, but they were still essentially enforced. The other thing I've heard argued is that football, the two things that basically integrated the South more than anything else was football and the military. And I used to laugh when I heard that, but then I hadn't been in the South. And then when I saw those football stadiums, and oh my God, I was like, yeah, okay. And you see the way that the players interact, you're like, yeah, there's a lot to it. At any rate, the historical moment that we're in right now sees women as apparent equal battlefield partners, almost, bracket, almost. And this is because of the frontless nature of the two engagements in Afghanistan and Iraq. There really is no front. Everything is the front. You go outside the walls of your compound, you're in the war. And so that erases this concept of, the front is there, we are behind, this is safe. It's like, no. If you're inside the base, you probably are not going to get killed. Likely. Depends on where the base is and how big it is. So that's sort of what I want you to focus on. At the same time, because the combat arms are mostly 15% women at the moment, so there's a tiny percentage, right? I mean, 15% means that they're in the minority. Means that they're seen by men as sexual objects. And so Williams starts her narrative with just that. Before anything she says on page 13, she's either a slut, the only other choice is bitch. If you're a woman and a soldier, those are the choices you get on 13. So let me show you a little piece from a film that Kristen Stewart made in 2014. And this is a smart little movie, almost unseen, virtually. It's called Camp X-Ray. So check this out.
Shit, sorry.
It's real nice.
That ain't mine. That's communal stash.
Is this what you like? Slow down a little bit, right? Stop, right? Stop!
Fuck!
I'm sorry.
Fuck you, bitch! Hey, where you been? You alright? Hey, come here, what's wrong? What's wrong behind?
Okay, so there's an inescapable essentialism about this particular scene where people are their gender first and everything else, and everything that their gender expectations are loaded with, that comes first before anything. Given the rape statistics, which I'm going to talk about in the next lecture, this seems to be true. I mean, it's okay. We've seen the same issue for Linda Van Devanter, who, remember, was automatically commissioned as a lieutenant because she was a nurse, right? That's what came along with that. So there she faced the same kinds of sexual issues, but because she's working with other educated personnel, not that that means that that's a bar against rape, but it means that she is able to she's able to discuss things. And so she forms an attachment with this one particular doctor. She has sex with them, with various people for comfort, and also forms these relationships, which are very strong. And that is largely what protects Van Devanter, I suspect. And it's not uncommon at all for the nurses to have married surgeons from the same hospitals. That's quite common because they've had a chance to try things out under fire, basically. And they're like, well, yeah, this seems to be working, so let's get married. And so they do. But this is not the same for combat soldiers who are going to be younger and are going to join for different reasons. It's a very physical job, for one reason. And Williams, in the case of Kayla Williams, is stunningly adept at rolling with dreadful situations. When I first read Williams' account of the daily abuse that women suffer at men's hands in terms of unwanted sexual attention, harassment, it's horrific. I had a tough time. I had to keep putting the book down. It was just so wretched and horrific. And I wish I could say it were surprising, but by that time it wasn't. I mean, I wasn't shocked particularly. It was just hard to read because it's just such an abusive story. And I expect that women will read William's story and unfortunately be less appalled than I was because I think women are just accustomed to harassment more than men have any idea. And so it's right down to the sort of harassment of telling women to smile, which was something that until, say, I don't know, 15 years ago, I hadn't even heard. Like, I'd been lucky enough not to be around any man. I didn't hear any man say to a woman, hey, you should smile, you're prettier when you smile, or something like that. So I've been lucky and protected by all kinds of things. By going to school at an older age, a lot of it was just I couldn't really tolerate being around men my age. When I was 18, being around 18-year-old men was, it was just the worst. It's like, oh, forget this. I just couldn't do it. They were generally terrible people. I don't think I was a very good person either, but this was a whole new level of horrible. Anyway, so Williams says, and I know about something else, how these same guys you want to piss on become your guys. Another girl enters your tent and they look at her the way they looked at you, and what drove you crazy with anger suddenly drives you crazy with jealousy because they're yours, on page 14. So it's incredibly important to remember this is one voice of thousands, hundreds of thousands really, and now millions, who have served in combat zones. And so Williams says is true for her. At the same time, you start to read the same kind of story, it becomes a relatively familiar narrative. And remember to distinguish between women who are serving as soldiers, as enlisted people, enlisted personnel, as opposed to women who are officers. And officers in what force? Is it the Air Force? Is it the Naval Air Force? It's very different. So she also points to her experience in interrogations. And in interrogation, we tend to think interrogations are people holding, strapping you down and torturing you and cutting off pieces of your body and, that kind of thing. But interrogation here, an interrogator really is somebody who just asks questions. So, I've met military interrogators, and their job is usually to sit and talk to people. Especially in Vietnam, you're not going to get good intelligence, actual intelligence, if you start off or if you threaten people with, a pair of pliers or a hammer or something like that. You need to sit and talk with people, and that's why it's important to learn the language. If you're going to be an interrogator, you need to learn the language. So in this case, that's why she's an interrogator, because she knows Arabic. Right? So as a woman and an interpreter, she has uses for the interrogators, but also they are able to use her to shame the target or the person who's being interrogated. And she points that out, right? She says this on page 250, so at the very end of the narrative. She says, it wasn't only the Abu Ghraib prison near Baghdad where abuses occurred in Iraq at the end of 2003. It was a bigger problem than that, and I will come to this. But that women were used to shame prisoners and to torture them psychologically, absolutely. What's interesting is that she doesn't draw the line from torture to sexual violence. Like, she doesn't connect these two things, which I would think she does, which she would. But I think that she doesn't because she knows it's there. Now, this is just my own supposition about Williams. That I think she's too bright to avoid this, but she wants to avoid it. I think she wants to avoid the fact that the same soldiers that would, say, harass her, or want to rape her, sexually abuse her linguistically, and make threats to her sexually, are the same people who are going to be torturing, and that she is also other. But I think she can't accept this, not in this book anyway, because what is often called enhanced interrogation is what the Geneva Convention would call torture. So we'll come to that.